Right. So with conclusions to the Europa League round of 16, we didn't see a lot of turnarounds. From basically like from first leg deficits, we didn't really see a lot of turnarounds. The only turnaround that we did see was West Ham defeating a German Bundesliga side, Freiburg. Remember, West Ham were trailing by a goal to nil going back into the second leg at the London Stadium, and they managed to overturn the deficit by winning emphatically by 5 goals to nil. You understand? So the Conference League champions, they really did well. And on the side of Brighton, Brighton's Europa League adventure, like they ended, at the round of 16, despite the fact that they did win the second leg, over Roma at the Amex Stadium. And Danny Welbeck, remember, he has now scored his first Europa League goal of the season as Brighton now exit the competition, basically, at least with some pride. The fact that they got victory in their second leg at home, so that's a bit of pride to carry. And man, Roberto De Zerbi's side, they fought hard, man, throughout, and they had their chances. But, the 4-0 defeat at the Stadio Olimpico in the first leg meant that, the task was beyond them. It was beyond them, man, because, carrying a 4-0, I've never really seen a team that has, oh yeah, Barcelona did that, but Brighton is not Barcelona. Brighton are still a club that is getting some European experience. This is their debut season, their maiden season in European, competition. So they have to understand that, they still have to get more experience under their belt to be able to compete and match the big guns such as AS Roma, at this, level of the game. So it was basically like a feisty encounter, and Danny Welbeck, the former Manchester United and Arsenal striker, produced the goods by curling a strike 8 minutes before the break, lifting Brighton's hopes of an unlikely comeback. I know how it's like to be a fan when you're in the stands. You believe that, you just get that one goal, you have that belief that you can get back into the game. But even though when the odds are stacked against you, and you know that the impossibilities are so high, and that's the case for Brighton. However, they really exerted pressure throughout, on the Italians, and the hosts were just unable to go near to pulling off, what would have been a stunning comeback. And you look at Roma's Sada Azmoun, had a superb first half overhead kick controversially disallowed for a high foot, to keep Brighton in the contest. And they were unable to convert their opportunities that came their way in the second half. That's the thing. When you're wasteful, you will be punished. And that's exactly what happened with Brighton, unfortunately. Simon Adingra also had a point-blank close-range header, which was stopped by the Roma goalkeeper Milas Villa. And, he also saved, from Igor, while, John Paul Van Heek, was also off target with 2 decent headed, attempts, as the tie, came to a rather inevitable conclusion, right? Which obviously we knew that, AS Roma were going to progress. But, Brighton are learning. They're going to learn. And remember, Brighton have won all 5 of their Europa League matches when scoring the opening goal. So that's a great record. That's a decent record to have, and that sure will give them a high sense of optimism, going forward, And, Brighton's first adventure, in Europe, ended in disappointment, There were many memorable moments that will serve them well. They should have put themselves in a position to enjoy the experience once more. After starting with the home defeats by AEK Athens, the Greek side, Brighton won home and away against Ajax, while the loss, to the Greek side was avenged away from home. There was also a draw in Marseille before victory over the French team at the Amex Stadium. So, Brighton have actually performed decently. They've really exerted themselves beyond all reasonable expectations. Their campaign, however, was effectively finished off by that heavy loss in Rome. The Italian team's aggregate lead for all Brighton's efforts, at the Amex Stadium was, simply unsurmountable. And to say the least, Brighton fans, even as the campaign came to a close, fully entered in the spirit of what they described as their European tour, which I can also attest to, that I can agree with them, which provided many thrilling moments that, they hope to sample again soon. The Zerbi side still have much to play for the season, with the opportunity of qualifying for Europe once more still very much a possibility. Brighton are 8th in the Premier League, remember. Only 5 points behind Manchester United in 6th place. And their passionate, talented manager will be eyeing up a big finish, so the stadium can enjoy more big European nights once more next season. And in the final stages, Brighton supporters, paid noisy tribute to both the manager and the players who have taken them on this journey. And they were just unlucky not to go through to the next round. Congratulations once again to Lewis Dunk for being awarded the player of the match, man of the match award. He put up a stern performance in defense. He was the real marshal. He put up a great captain's performance. And Brighton suddenly were the better side. It's just ironic that Brighton had 21 shots at goal, but they could only find 5 on target, which meant the fact that the only one out of the 5 that were on target, it was only the goal, that solitary goal that found the back of the net. And it was an important goal, but it was not enough to actually see them go through to the next round. However, Brighton, they will have to learn from this experience if they are to actually qualify once again for Europe. And we hope to see them go a step better. Continuing with the Europa League action, let's head straight to Scotland. Let's head straight to Scotland. Rangers taking on Benfica in Scotland. So, Rangers' Europa League campaign also crashed to an end as Rafa Silva's breakaway goal sent Benfica into the quarterfinals after another thrilling encounter at Ibro. It was actually Rafa Silva's composed finish which actually consigned Rangers to a Europa League round of 16 exit. Let's just get it straight into how this game was. And unfortunately, man, it's just one of those games where either side could win it. To be honest with you guys, either side could win this game. Based on how things went in this game, either side could win it. It just needed that one chance, that one opportunity which was taken, by Benfica to actually seal the crucial victory. That's what you need in knockout football. That one chance that you put away in the back of the net to secure victory. You don't have to play pretty football. It doesn't have to be so pretty. It just has to make sure that, look, you put the ball in the back of the net and you secure the favorable result. So that's exactly what the Portuguese did. And Silva, the goal scorer, was able to race onto an Angel Di Maria's second half knockdown to cut across Mohamed Diomande and fire past Jack Butland, with Rangers badly exposed from their own corner. That's how football is. Counter-attacking football. You kill them on the counter. When you're playing an away game in knockout football and you understand the fact that, look, the home side is always going to come at you. What you do, you just need to make sure that you defend those set pieces well and you punish them on the counter-attack. That's exactly what Benfica did. And it worked for them. The strike was initially ruled out for offside before, the video assistant referee review determined the Portuguese had stayed inside his own half before showing exquisite execution to silence a raucous stadium. And from this particular moment in time, Rangers, they just faded away. That goal really killed their confidence. It literally killed their confidence. It dampened their spirit so much so. It really did kill their confidence. Because from that particular moment in time, Rangers failed to master a real fight back. As now Roger Smith's side managed the game so well to actually secure progression to the next round. And the Ibro was an absolute wall of noise before kickoff. Yeah? And you could tell that the anticipation of the potential of another Europa League quarterfinal, what would have been their second in 3 seasons, has wiped up Rangers fans. It was indeed, basically a captivating spectacle, which ensued between the two sides before, it seemed evenly matched, for the most part, certainly up until the 66th minute when Benfica got that goal. Benfica were the first to actually show their teeth in terms of opportunities. And it was actually Rafa Silva who broke from a Rangers corner that left them exposed at the back. And that would become a theme, an untimely decisive one. His whipped low cross was begging to be buried by evaded the incoming, Marcus Leonardo. Rangers, from that particular moment in time, they began to utilize their home advantage, controlling the ball well, but they were nearly caught again when David Neres cut back, Di Maria swiped at, and Leonardo could not direct his header at the goal. But then Di Maria, a classy player, we all know how classy Di Maria is. He had all the space in the world again from a Rangers corner down the right, and he tried to bend the ball into Leonardo, but it was just off his own accuracy. And would Rangers learn from that? Absolutely no. That's the thing. You have to learn from your lesson. When you can when you can see that you're making mistakes, when you can see that the opposition is posing threats, is showing you signs of, the fact that they can attack and that they can punish you for their mistakes, you need to adhere to those warnings, especially when it comes to this stage of the game. You need to. And that's one thing Rangers didn't do. Because you look at John Lundstrom, so influential of late, he gifted the chance of the half when he appeared to change his mind at the vital moment. And guess what the World Cup winner did? Di Maria. Di Maria gathered, he squared the ball across, but somehow it tunneled behind to relief of the home support. Rangers again, they struggled to create clear-cut opportunities. We saw Cyril Dessers was on the end of one early in the second half, but he seemed to hesitate slightly, and a wonderful opportunity deflected wide. A similar result from that particular moment in time followed. It soon ensued. This time when James, Tavernier crossed towards Dessers, but the defender beat him, and nearly his own keeper, as the ball agonizingly rolled wide of the post. And then another Rangers corner came off begging, and which left them undone on the counter once again. They just didn't learn from their mistakes. They did not see the signs coming. They were supposed to have read the signs that Benfica are dangerous on the counter-attack. And if you're not careful, if you don't pay attention, you will be punished. Because Rafa Silva fed Frederick Orsnes, who played it to substitute Casper, Tungstedt, and then the striker had to score but shot straight forward at Butland. However, Benfica were not to be denied this time, and Silva did capitalize by the narrowest of offside margins to decide the tie. And from then on, they limited Rangers while coming close to adding to their lead at the other end. So, congratulations once again to Benfica. They now march on to the quarterfinals where they will be facing Marseille in the last 8. So, Rafa Silva, for his brilliant and decisive execution for the goal, he got the Man of the Match award, and special mention though must also go to the Rangers defender John, Suter, who is doing his Scotland credentials no harm before Euro 2024. He was really solid, and he read the game superbly and sparked the odd encounter, with incisive passing. And Benfica, on the other hand, their quality really counts. Quality counts, ladies and gentlemen, because Rangers failed to reach their best. Rangers matched Benfica in Lisbon, and they did so in front of a raucous home crowd until conceding the decider. And from that particular moment in time, they just could not find a response. The substitutes, they were unable to really make an impact, any real sort of meaningful impact. Perhaps, with that being said, Philip Clement's side ran out of steam, given the demands of their schedule and injuries they have endured. In Benfica, they made a side who have real quality, and that eventually showed and decided who would progress to the next round, which is like the quarterfinals. The one question mark, centers on why Rangers persisted in leaving themselves so exposed. That's exactly what we saw so many times. They left themselves so exposed many times, and you leave yourself exposed, and at that time you have a corner kick. That's a real set piece opportunity. But time and time in again, they were almost caught, and they eventually were. They should have paid attention. They were not paying attention to the game. They just did not read the game properly. Because that aside, it has been another impressive Europa League campaign in which they've shown real quality against top sides, that they were roundly applauded at the end. It really speaks to that fact that, this is a team that is on the rise, that is actually building its credentials in Europe. However, on the night, they didn't quite reach those levels, and they paid the price for it. So their focus is now on domestic silverware, and they remain in strong position to add to their League Cup success. So tough luck to Rangers, man. But Benfica, congrats to them. And you look at the fact that all of Benfica's last 4 goals in the Europa League have been either scored or assisted by Angel Di Maria. So he has scored 3 times and he has assisted 1 goal. So his assist, though, tonight for Rafael Silva's goal was his 13th involvement in the competition for Benfica, with only Oscar Cardoso providing more goal contributions than him for the club, 21, since Europa League's rebranding in the 2009-2010 season. And Benfica are now the first Portuguese team to beat Rangers at Ibro in the European competition. The Glasgow outfit had previously gone 11 games unbeaten against Portuguese opposition, winning 8 and then drawing 3. Whereas, again, Rangers have now lost back-to-back matches at Ibro across all competitions for the first time since March 2020 under Steven Gerrard. And since then, they had played 110 games without suffering consecutive home defeats. The victory for Benfica, it was actually their first on the road in Europa League since October 2020. After Benfica, I remember they failed, to win any of their previous 4 games away from home. They've drawn 3 and they've actually lost 1. And it was also their first away victory, in the knockout stages of the competition since February 2019, having just lost 4 of their last 5 before this particular encounter. Whereas Rafa Silva has now scored 3 away goals in his last 4 European away matches, as many as he has managed in his previous 27 away games in Europe across spells with Praga as well as Benfica. And now Rangers have failed to score in a home game across all competitions for only the second time in their last 46 matches. It happened against Celtic in September 2023. They had scored in each of their last 19 matches at Ibro before tonight. So now what's next for Rangers is that they head to Dens Park to face Dundee on Sunday in their final Scottish Premier League fixture before the international break. Let's just do this. Right. Furthermore, West Ham United have now recorded their biggest European win in their history. Remember, they swept aside Freiburg to overturn a first leg deficit and march into the 3rd consecutive quarterfinal. Before the match, David Moyes, evoked the memories of their comeback win against Sevilla at the same stage of the competition 2 years ago, And this time, the Hammers boss got a similar outcome. In the fact that, remember Freiburg, they got that goal which it just paid off due to the fact that, they had the home ground advantage, and it was like their dominance that they asserted for sure. And, yet, unlike that night against the Spaniards, with the home fans were tortured by tension and they did not seal victory until extra time, West Ham had the job wrapped up within an hour against the poor Freiburg side. It was Lucas Paqueta who pulled them level in the tie just after 9 minutes as he slid in an unmarked to turn home, and then Thomas Soucek's near post flick from barely a yard. And then informed Jared Bowen continued his excellent season with his 18th strike of the campaign just after the half-hour mark to actually put the Hammers ahead on aggregate. And then it was actually the veteran defender Aaron Cresswell then scored his first goal in almost 2 years off, as the visiting defense, allowed him too much space to actually shoot. From that particular moment in time, you knew that the contest was beyond any reason, was done and dusted beyond any reasonable doubt. The contest was finished out, but, there was still time for Mohamed Kudus to make an impact. And we saw the Ghanaian score twice in the final 15 minutes as David Moyes' side completed their biggest victory since Moyes returned to the club in December 2019. So what does this actually mean for the Hammers? Now, the Hammers have now recorded an impressive 26 European victories in, the trio of campaigns under David Moyes. Before this run, they had only achieved 25 in their history, including in the, Intertoto Cup, right? So West Ham will be taking on Bayer Leverkusen, informed Bayer Leverkusen, right? They will be taking on Bayer Leverkusen in the quarterfinals. Ooh, My goodness. And now Jared Bowen has scored 18 goals in 36 appearances for West Ham this season, which is he has now equaled his most in a campaign for the Hammers in 15 fewer appearances. Remember, he scored 18 in 51 games in the 2021-2020. And one thing that is actually worth noting is that, like, for the fact that it was actually like it was not a good day in the office for one England hopeful. Calvin Phillips, he was left out of Gareth Southgate's squad, and then also David Moyes' starting 11, within a space of 3 hours. Then Bowen continued to put together what is like starting to look like an undeniable case for a place in the England squad for Euro 2024. Bowen did not go to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. After a pre-tournament form slumped that continued when the Premier League season restarted. However, the 2022-2023, ended in jubilation. He scored the late winner in the UEFA Conference League final, and that qualified his team for a third successive European campaign. Remarkably, his first half goal was his first in Europe this season. And he moved into a wide role, to accommodate the return of Mikel Antonio. And then Bowen had the presence of mind to actually run across the area, struggling one defender, to the ground in the process before driving a low left-footed shot into the bottom corner. I mean, what a great start. What a way to actually get your first goal in Europe this season. And, it was a kind of moment that he produced so many times this season. And given, he's excelled at the central attacking role as well, it is tough to see how Southgate can exclude him from the party, if he takes, his team to Germany. And Bowen, he's more than just a goal scorer. The former Hull City player's work ethic is phenomenal, and he's also unselfish. He's a team player. He plays for the team. And again, it was the 27-year-old, who provided the assist that allowed Cresswell to take a touch before driving in his first goal since April 2022. And after getting, sent off in the Europa League semi-final against Eintracht Frankfurt, 2 years ago, and then spending the Europa Conference League final on the bench, the 34-year-old Cresswell, has had more reason than most to want to actually make an impact for the Hammers this season. Mohamed Kudus, wow, man. He has been an inconsistent presence this season, but, his late double for the Hammers was just pure class. It was just pure class. And his first was a driving run down the middle of the pitch that, Freiburg were powerless to stop, as he beat like two players and curled a shot home. And his celebration grabbing a plastic stool to sit on was memorable at the effort itself. And then the second was a rocket, which he gave the Freiburg goalkeeper, Noah, Atabalu, no chance of actually keeping it out. No chance of actually saving that one. No chance. And what is actually worth noting is the fact that West Ham now, they've won their past 10 home matches in major European competitions, excluding, qualifiers. And this was one of those nights that, make you wonder what the fuss is all about with Moyes and his future at West Ham, because the squad was actually brave in his selection. And we saw Antonio, he provided Freiburg defense with a threat. They just could not cope with it. Bowen, Kudus, they were just excellent out wide. And Paqueta floated into space and caused some huge damage for that, Freiburg defense. The Germans were just nowhere near the class that West Ham possessed, last night. And Moyes applauded all sides of the ground, at the final whistle of a game that West Ham fans turned out in force for. Despite the early kickoff, those same fans responded in some kind. It has not always been like this, because the 4-2 win over Brentford 3 weeks ago ended an 8-match winless streak, including a 6-0 home drubbing to Arsenal. And, with the Moyes out banner, seen in the away match, with the Hammers losing to Nottingham Forest. But I'm sure, man, West Ham fans now will see that David Moyes has what it takes to take this team to greater levels. And, this was a night where everybody enjoyed, and the promises of more still to come, that is like bound to come into Moyes' thinking as he ponders his future at the end of the season. But I sincerely believe that, look, man, West Ham have got what it takes. They just need to maintain that rhythm in their play. They really need to get those consistent results because they haven't really been consistent, have they? I'm saying West Ham United. They really haven't been consistent this season. Okay. Next, we head straight to Germany. Football is a religion. Football is a religion. Football is an incredible sport. It's the beautiful game. Football is a beautiful game. You know, this game between Bayer Leverkusen and Karabakh. How did Bayer Leverkusen do it? Overturning a 2-goal deficit to actually save the tie and keep their unbeaten record intact. Because now Bayer Leverkusen are unbeaten in 37 games across all competitions this season. And it was Patrick, Schick, who scored twice in stoppage time as Bayer Leverkusen. They dramatically beat Karabakh to reach the Europa League quarterfinals. And now they extend their season-long run. Their season-long unbeaten run. And it was second half goals that were scored by Abdallah Zubair as well as Jonino, which put the visitors Karabakh, 4-2 up on aggregate and in control of the tie. Surprisingly, that was just a shock. And however, Jeremy Frimpong volleyed in 10 minutes after the Karabakh defender, Alvin, Kavaguliev, was sent off, and the Czech Republic forward Schick was the late hero for Xabi Alonso's side. The 28-year-old looked set, to send the tie to extra time when he steered in Alex Grimaldo's cross, but there was a late twist. There was still a bit of time for a later dramatic twist to the game. Schick's header from Ezekiel Palacios' cross in the 7th added minute sparkled wild scenes of among all the home supporters in the Bay Arena, leaving the Uzbekistan side visitors floored to the ground. I mean, that was a dramatic comeback. I just don't know how to describe it. This dramatic comeback now has extended the Bundesliga's, leader, remarkable unbeaten run to basically 37 games in all competitions this season. Incredible. That's just incredible. Unbelievable, man. It's so unreal how, Bayer Leverkusen were able to throw themselves back into the game. Unbelievable. And they play West Ham United next in the quarterfinals of this competition. So, it's still going to get tough, man. And again, Liverpool, ruthless. That's all I can just say about Liverpool. Ruthless. They were just ruthless. Imagine winning 11-2 on aggregate. Imagine winning 11-2 on aggregate. That's just ruthlessness, man. Salah, basically, even now, he has scored his first goal. He has scored on his first start for Liverpool since the 1st of January. And Liverpool, they opened the scoring, just very early on in the game. And defender Conor Bradley, he mentioned something that Liverpool are aiming to win every trophy possible, for their departing boss Jurgen Klopp. And they thrashed the Sparta Prague to reach the quarterfinals of the Europa League. They did so in emphatic style, and Liverpool are definitely sending us a statement. They're sending us a statement. They're showing that they're demonstrating that they've got so much to play for. Because Liverpool were already 5-1 ahead after a dominant first leg showing in Czech Republic. Then Darwin Núñez's opener was the first of 4 goals in 7 minutes, and the Reds just completely left their opponents overwhelmed. Completely. And by full time, the hosts, had a run-up in their biggest aggregate victory in a European competition for over 4 decades, as they've equaled their 11-2 success over Finnish side, Kulan Palasura, in the first round of the European Cup in 1980-1981. I mean, Jesus Christ, Liverpool, remember now, Liverpool are basically second even in the Premier League. That's why I say to Arsenal fans, don't be too excited, man. It's just 1 point. You still have to play Manchester City at the Etihad. Relax. Liverpool now are second in the Premier League, and they face Manchester United in the last 8 of the FA Cup on Sunday. And they look to add more silverware following their Carabao triumph in February. And they made a blistering start, which does underpin an emphatic victory. Dominic Szoboszlai's precise cutback allowed the Uruguayan forward Núñez to actually start the rout as he registered his 9th goal in 11 games. He did so by guiding a low effort into the bottom right corner. And then from that particular moment in time, some shambolic attempts to actually play out from the back from the visitors only served to provide further momentum to Liverpool's blistering start. It was the teenage sensation once again, Bobby Clark, the son of former Newcastle United midfielder Lee Clark, was the first beneficiary, capping a fine first European start with his first senior goal just like 60 seconds later as he enrolled the ball past the visiting goalkeeper Peter Vindal. And then from that particular moment in time, we knew it was all Liverpool. The tie was beyond any reasonable doubt. Mohamed Salah also capitalized to stroke in a third for Klopp's side, to bring up his 20th goal of the season. And then in the process, what actually happened from that particular on, he became the first player in the club's history to actually reach that mark in 7 consecutive campaigns. So Salah has scored more than 20 goals or more in 7 consecutive campaigns for Liverpool. I mean, yeah, man. Salah, he's just he just keeps on delivering and delivering and delivering, and you can see his desire to play, his desire to score, his desire to contribute to the team's momentum. It just doesn't stop, and he has improved in many aspects, and the one problem that I can tell with Salah that Salah has never had is that he's consistent. He's always been a consistent player for Liverpool. And you look at the fact that the Egypt international, he then turned provider with a near post cross for Cody Gakpo, for Liverpool's 4th. And Sparta, did briefly stem the tide, with Vilijo, Bermovic outpacing Wataru Endo to actually steer the ball past the home goalkeeper, Kelleher. The joyous celebrations in the away section were quietly cut short. And now, the Czech side, they become the first Czech Republic team to actually score at Anfield. They become the first side from Czech Republic to actually find the back of the net at Anfield. And it was, even though that was like a reason for them to celebrate, because that was a massive achievement, becoming the first Czech side to actually get a goal, find the back of the net at Anfield. And it was an otherwise, dismal evening for the Czech champions, because it did continue after the break. And we saw Szoboszlai's deflected strike put the home side into double figures across 2 legs, and Gakpo's improvised flick from substitute Harvey Elliott's curling shot rounded off a comprehensive win for Liverpool. So, yeah, man, I guess I hope to see, a Liverpool versus AC Milan final. I just pray that it happens that way, because I want it to be another classic. Take us back to the 2005 classic, 2005 Champions League final classic between both sides. So I would love it to be a Liverpool versus AC Milan clash. I would really love that to happen.